Tekken 8 is right around the corner, and with the demo out now, we have a fair judgment of the game and how it's going to perform on PC on different hardware. Now today in this video, I'm going to go ahead and try to optimize the game on PC because there were many issues that are still present in the game and that could actually go ahead and hinder your performance, your competitive performance in Tekken 8. So let's head right into it. This is actually me from the future. I just wanted to tell you guys to please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, because we have many new games coming and we want to make content for that. So if you motivate me, I will give you guys the best content. So please leave a like and subscribe. Basically, with every game on the PC, you can actually go ahead and optimize your own PC to make the game perform better. Now, if your own PC and your Windows, whichever you're using, Windows 11, Windows 10, whichever you're using, if it's not optimized properly, the game is not going to run properly. So first, I would recommend you guys, before going ahead and trying to optimize Tekken 8, you should always optimize your Windows. And for doing that, you should always go ahead. First step, you should always not run any background applications. That includes anything like Google Chrome and any launchers like Ubisoft Connect and Epic Games Launcher if it's not required, Steam, and whichever launcher you're using to actually run the game, you should keep it open and the rest of them you should close, because that will actually make your RAM resources be freed from those programs and be actually used in the game. There are very nice videos online regarding this topic, and you can already go ahead and check out those channels. Many of them are like Tekken City. Maybe I think he's changed the name on his channel. I don't remember, but Tekken City has a video where he actually optimizes Windows, and you can go ahead and I seriously recommend you guys to go ahead and check that video out so you can get an idea how to optimize your Windows first. Now, if you've already done that and your Windows is pretty consistently optimized and it's not hindering your performance in the games, you can go ahead and skip to the part where I try to optimize Tekken 8. If not, then I'm going to give you some tips on it in this part, and then you can go ahead and do that. Then you can go to Tekken 8 optimization. So after you've closed all the apps on your PC, that's apps that are not being used and you don't require them, the first step that you should be using is actually going ahead in your display settings. In your display settings, you have got actually your advanced display here, and you have a refresh rate here. This is not actually a performance advantage, but this is actually that the display refresh rate that you actually can see in front of you. Whenever you install a driver, sometimes what happens is the Windows actually automatically sets a refresh rate that is not your native refresh rate, and that could be easily 60 Hertz. So I would recommend you to go ahead and enable 144 Hertz, 165 Hertz, or 90 Hertz, whichever monitor you're using. You should always maximize this in order for your games to be visible to you in a high refresh rate. Okay, I hope you understand that. Now, first, with this out of the way, there are several other settings in the system and display settings here, which you can use to actually go ahead and increase the performance. I'm specifically talking about HAGS, which is Hardware Accelerated GPU Scheduling, all right? It's actually present in Graphics tab. When you go to Graphics tab in your system display and then Graphics, you have an option here which says Hardware Accelerated GPU Scheduling. Now, I'm using an AMD GPU, which is an RX 6600, and it doesn't have enabled on this driver, so I cannot actually enable it, but if you have that, you should enable that, and that will actually go ahead. And sometimes in some games it does somewhat increase in performance. I don't remember the exact numbers, but yeah, somewhat increase in performance. So with that out of the way, there are some other options too. Yeah, so you can see resizable bar here. This is actually in AMD you can call it SAM. I don't remember the abbreviation, but it's actually called SAM. And resizable bar is the basic thing. It actually makes the GPU perform a little bit better in some instances, and you should enable it if you've got a system that supports it. So if you've enabled also this, then you are good to go. Your drivers are good. You've updated the drivers to the best possible drivers, the latest one for your game or for Tekken 8. Right now, AMD doesn't have a driver for Tekken 8, or I don't remember if it does have. Don't quote me on that, but we're using Adrenaline 23.12.1. Now, there are also some programs actually that actually make your system RAM free from resources from other programs. You can use those programs, but I've never used them myself, but there are people who actually use them and actually see those resources freed from your RAM and actually benefit them in games. If you want to try that, you can do that, but I personally don't use them. Now, these were actually some tips which were beneficial for all of the games. You can do them and actually get benefit for your Windows in general, for your programs, other programs also. But now we're going to go specifically for Tekken 8 demo or for Tekken 8 also, because this is actually basically the final code. They're going to just patch it some like 1 or 2 times more, and afterwards you're gonna get the final game. Now, considering this is very representative of the final product, we're going to try to optimize the game today. Now, first, to get a benchmark of how this game is gonna run, before we actually try to optimize it, I'm going to actually launch the game first, and we're going to go into a match, and we're going to see how much, if we get some lag, stuttering, or whatever we get. All right. Okay, guys. So I've just launched the game. I'm going to go into the game now. I just need to decrease the volume a little bit. All right. So we're going to just go into the settings first, just to show you guys how you need to optimize the game first for the game settings, because the first step is actually to make your settings be at 60 FPS, because this is a competitive game and you need to have 60 FPS. Anything lower than 60 FPS is going to cause you issues, and also your opponent some issues in the match, because this game is very dependent upon the frame rate of your opponent and also your own PC. So if you don't optimize first of all your settings here and you get lower FPS, then experience for your opponent and yourself is going to be bad. So first, what you need to do is, if you've got a GPU like a mid-range GPU, you can easily use like 1080p and high to medium settings in this game. And I've already tested out, there is a video on my channel I've tested out on an RX 6600. You can go ahead and check that video out to get an idea of how the game is performing without any optimizations and stuff. Now, these are the settings that I was currently using, but I was getting some lag in the game. These are ultra settings with TSR, and I've just turned on measure display FPS. Alright, so these are the settings that I'm currently using, and I've turned off variable ray shading because it makes the hair look somewhat bad. This is the resolution, whatever your native resolution for your desktop, for your monitor is, you should use that. I'm using 1080p because I've got a 1080p monitor, and this is VSync. You should turn this off because this setting actually makes you have more input lag. VSync in games, it actually syncs the frame rate of your game to the monitor's refresh rate. But I've got a 144 Hz monitor. This game has a FPS cap of 60 FPS in matches. So this is not actually useful in this game, and I would recommend you to turn this off. Let's go ahead in the settings. I'm currently using TSR at ultra settings. Everything is to the maximum. Alright guys, so we have OSD on screen now. You can see all the stats here, the system specs and everything if you want to check them out. But we're going to basically look at the frame time graph here, because 60 FPS is not going to be changing. We're going to see the frame time graph here. Alright, if it's smooth, if it's pretty smooth, then it's alright. If it's not, then it's not good. Alright, so let's go to Super Ghost Battle. And you can see the frame time graph. This is like fluctuating a lot. It's up and down. This is not good. This actually represents that you're getting some stuttering. And also you can see 0.1% lows and 1% lows. They're also pretty bad. And considering that this is a competitive game, we need to have close to 60 FPS. Now, as you can see right now, we're not even in the game. We're not even in the match, and currently the FPS is at 55. That's what I meant, that you have to have 60 FPS lock on your games. Now what I'm going to try to do, because this is actually TSR right now, that's why the game is not running very good. I'm going to go back to the menu, and I'm going to optimize the settings here, and we're going to go to high settings. All right, let's just turn the settings down to high. Okay, so this is high settings. This should actually make us be locked at 60 FPS. All right, and this shouldn't cause us any issues. Okay, so as you can see, seriously, now 60 FPS locked, but the frame time graph still is not smooth. As you can see, it's up and down. There's hitches there. That's what we don't want in our battles. Okay, so I'm gonna try my own ghost here. Let's try Kazuya, and still as we select the character, yeah, it's going up and down. It's pretty bad. So let's just select this map, Urban Square, which is pretty intensive on the GPU side. So yeah, okay, so we're gonna watch the cutscenes because we want to know what performance we're getting. Okay, it's 60 FPS, but frame time graph is not smooth. Yeah, okay, so let's just do some electrics and stuff. What am I doing, man? All right, so this was a match that we did. We're gonna run one match to get a performance idea. 0.1% lows are at 1 FPS, 1% lows are at 3 FPS, and average FPS is 60. All right, so average FPS is not an issue. Now you can see that the hitching is already there. It's pretty bad. Alright guys, so the first step basically is to actually go ahead in your games folder. Now I'm going to go to Steam and we're going to go here and we're going to go to browse local files. Alright, you have to go right click on your Tekken demo and then you have to manage and go to browse local files. Okay, this will actually open up the folder where Tekken demo is actually installed. Now you have to go to Polaris folder, binaries, Windows 64, and this is the folder where actually the game's executable is present. You need to right click on this and go to properties and actually go to compatibility. Now you have to select disable full screen optimizations. Now there are some issues in Windows actually which tries to actually optimize the games for full screen mode. What happens is basically the Windows doesn't let the game perform in, you could say, very good. It doesn't let the game perform very good with those optimizations. Now we're going to disable that. We don't want Windows to do anything with the game. We're just going to disable this. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cap the frame rate for the game, because you know that the game has a cap inside it, but it actually sometimes goes above that. It goes to 60 FPS and it messes the frame time actually. We need the frame time of the game to be actually steady at 16.6 milliseconds, which is 60 FPS constant. So guys, for that purpose, for actually locking down the frame rate, I'm going to actually use Riva Tuner's statistics server. And it's actually bundled with the MSI Afterburner. When you install MSI Afterburner, it's going to install it automatically, all right? So for those of you guys who want to actually install it, there is a frame rate limit here. As you can see, if you want to select it for all of the games, you can easily say 60 here and select enter. It will actually just go ahead and lock the frame rate for every game at 60. But if you don't want to do that, you can actually select add and you can go to the folder for your game. So I'm just going into the folder, guys, where the game is installed, and I'm going to select the executable. Now, as you can see, I'm into the game's executable now. I'm going to remove this make it 0. I want other games to be actually running at 60 FPS. So I'm going to make this to go to 60. Okay, so now this is actually locked to 60. If we keep it running, when the game is running, it's actually going to lock the game to 60 FPS. This is going to have advantages for your frame time graphs, and it's going to try to make it smoother. All right, we're going to see if we get some benefits or not. And yeah, so these are the two optimizations that you guys should be using in for your Tekken 8. And this will actually make your game run better, hopefully. Now let's try and go back into the game, and I'm going to see if we get some benefits or not. Okay guys, so we are back into the game, and you can already see the frame time graph except for these hitches here. You can see that how smooth it is. It's like a straight line now. And let's try to move here. It's at 16.6 milliseconds. This makes a huge difference for fighting games actually, guys. If you don't know that fighting games actually require you to, in order to perform electrics and stuff and different things like for those which are actually frame dependent, you need to have a consistent frame rate or a consistent frame time graph, and you will get a very good consistent results with this. Now, as you can see, the frame time graph is pretty smooth. But when we're loading things, it's actually hitching a little bit. This can actually be due to system here, but you can see the frame time graphs. Except for some hitches, it's very consistently a straight line. Now, this is what I was talking about. When you optimize your game like this, Tekken 8, whenever it launches, when it launches on January 26th or 28th, I think, you're going to have a very good experience if you already go ahead and use these optimizations. Alright, let's just do a match again and see if we get some hitches. Now nothing. As you can see the frame time graph, I'm just amazed by only these two things. You can get how much performance you can get out of this. Alright, so he's dead. Okay, so you can see the frame time graph, how smooth it is. It's not gonna hitch because I've already tried these settings and they're very good. Okay, so the round is finished and there were some improvements. As you can see, the frame time graph is pretty smooth, and we want a frame time graph to be smoother. It doesn't have to have hitches in a fighting game scene. You have to have a smooth frame time graph. And believe me, if you go ahead and try these settings for yourself in your games, in your Tekken 8, and opponents also will praise you. They will love, because I played the beta, and people who didn't have PCs that were actually compatible with the game or capable to run the game properly, it was a nightmare to play against those guys. So yeah, these are the optimization for the game that you should be using. Always optimize your graphics settings first, and then optimize these things that I've already told you. Now let's go ahead into on the desktop back, and let's see the other optimizations which are for the graphics actually, to make them look cleaner and to make you look at opponent's attacks clearly. All right. All right, guys. So we are back into the desktop, and actually you can see on the screen right now I've made a notepad here. These are the actual settings. These are actually by Rodeo Bro, whose video I actually watched, and those were quite consistent results. You can actually go ahead and use these settings. I'm going to leave a link to his video in my description actually. So let's just go ahead and first let's try to add these settings in the files, and then we will see the difference and what do these settings actually do. So let's just copy this. What you need to do is you have to copy these settings. I'm going to also leave them in my description, and let's copy these. Go to your C drive. You need to go to your C drive, and then you need to go to users, and then you need to click on your name there or whatever you're doing there. Then you go to app data, and then you go to local. And this is a pathway that you're going to be using actually. Tekken 8. Okay, Tekken 8 demo here. Then go here and select saved. Now you need to go to config and you go to Windows. And here you have all these files here, okay? You need to go to engine.ini file. What you need to do is you have to enter here and make some space here. You have to click Control V, or you can easily paste here. Just paste these files here and you're done. Now, this is actually a disclaimer because these settings are not optimized yet. What you need to do is whatever you require in the game, whatever visual quality you require in the game, these are just post effects in my opinion, like bloom quality, motion blur and stuff. Whatever settings you like, you should keep them. Other settings you should disable. And I'm going to tell you how you can actually disable them. Now here you have bloom quality. It says 0. Bloom quality is basically for light rays and stuff, for like blooming lights and stuff. And you can actually see here that it's written 0. So that means that it's actually disabled. If you want to enable it, you can do that. 0 means disabled. Now motion blur quality here, this game I think doesn't have motion blur natively when it runs with your default graphic settings in the game. These graphic settings are not in the game actually. These are separate graphic settings by Unreal Engine 5. These are settings that are actually natively present in Unreal Engine 5. So I don't personally like motion blur, so I'm going to disable it, and I'm going to keep the motion blur amount to 0. Scene color fringe quality, I'm going to keep to 0. Okay, grain quality, this is film grain, I'm going to keep to 0. Tone mapper, I'm going to keep to 2. But actually, I think this is a chromatic aberration basically. So I'm going to try to also just make it 0. This is anisotropic filtering. We need to keep it at 16. This is actually the textures and the visibility of the textures. This setting actually makes the visibility of the textures more enhanced. Okay, you can call it that. And ambient occlusion method, you can keep it at 1. Lens flare quality, if you like lens flares, lens flare is basically a camera effect. And you can keep it at 2. I don't have any issues with this. I need to actually disable depth of field. I don't like it. And yeah, just max size, just keep it at that. Now what you need to do is you have to click on save. And once you do that, you have to click close this file. And you have to go here and go to properties. And you have to click on read only. You don't need the game to actually go ahead and change these, because when the game launches, it actually is going to try to do and change these files back to the default and remove all those which we did. Okay, so these settings that I showed you, these lines of code or whatever it is that I showed you, you can actually go ahead and optimize for yourself. Now we're going to go back into the game and we're going to try to see the difference, if there is any difference with these settings or not. All right, which in my opinion there is. Okay guys, so straightforward in the menu, I can clearly see Kazuya's face more clearly. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I will try to put both the before and after here, and I'm gonna just let you guys judge, because chromatic aberration in this game, in my opinion, makes the textures get hidden in some way. I can see his skin more clearly. I can see his facial textures more clearly, and in my opinion, it looks more clear, and the game looks pretty good now. Now let's go back to Super Ghost Battle, and these are all the settings that have already been applied. And yeah, so let's go back to Battle, your Ghost, and Kazuya. But depending upon the graphics card you're using, basically NVIDIA or AMD, you can actually go ahead and optimize the games differently. There are some methods for NVIDIA to actually limit the frame rates inside your NVIDIA control panel, which you can use yourself, and you can if you don't want to use RivaTuner statistics server, you can use that to actually go ahead and limit your frame rate. There is not one option, so you have different options. So let's go back into the game, and I personally like this view a lot more. It makes the textures look more clearer. And yeah, so as you can see now, the road textures and everything, it looks amazing now in my opinion. Let's just try to beat him. Alright, bro. So you guys can see the difference. Maybe you can tell on YouTube video. I don't know if you can tell or not. Okay, this ghost is pretty good now. He's learned a lot. Okay. Alright guys, so you can see the frame time graph smoother. There's no issue with that. All the drops that I'm making are actually by me. I'm not doing very good. And he's just electric me, guys. What the hell? I cannot even wave dash right now. He's gonna die by this. Okay. Alright guys, so I think today's video helped you out and it helped you actually play Tekken 8 better than before. So if it did, actually go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will really appreciate that. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.